Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Wealthy Legacy Journey, where we talk about building wealth on purpose for a purpose. I'm your host, Kendell Liden, and the title of today's episode is Life is Like a Game of Chess. So, how do you protect the king? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I actually watched a really neat movie that kind of gave me the idea for this title, and I'm excited to share that movie with you and just kind of some of the mental breakthroughs that I had on that, as well as some other just awesome fronts that I've had this week. But before I go too far, I want to share with you guys some very exciting news. Our home is live on the market. We've actually already had one showing for our house. We've had lots of saves on Zillow, which is really exciting momentum. Me and my family were with the in-laws right now as we just left our house open for showings. And there's this little bit of like bittersweet, like we're really excited about what's coming in the future, where we're going, because we really kind of followed the game plan of figuring, where are we at right now, where are we going, and what are the steps to get us from where we're at to where we want to go. And then from there, you can just determine what's the right next step to take to get you to that end goal. And so, this was just the right next step in that procession. And it was a few very difficult weeks of lots of tumultuous labor to get the house ready for a listing. But hey, now we're here. The house is up, and that's really exciting. Um, I want to talk about this movie though. This movie, it's called Life of a King, and it was really neat. It was about this guy who he went to jail. In jail, he really kind of got a chance to straighten out his life, found the Lord, and found the game of chess. And there's two quotes from that movie that I thought were really powerful and impactful, even to me in my own life. And I thought, how can I apply that? One of them was always protect the king, right? Because in the game of chess, you have all these different pieces, but the purpose of the game is to defeat the other player. Well, the way you can be defeated is by losing your king, but the way you win is by taking the other person's king, right? So the game of chess, though, it's not all about offense, right? If you're only thinking about how do I take the other person's king, but you never think about defending your own king, you're opening yourself up to a vulnerability where somebody could come in and take your king. Vice versa, if you only try to play defense, you're never going to be able to move forward on a strong front to win the game. The game of life is a lot like the game of chess. We can't play too much defense, right? Where we never play offense, we never get aggressive, we never step out and make a bold move. And if we are always in that place of playing defense, we're never going to be able to move across the board, get ahead, and ultimately experience those big victories and those big wins. However, on the other hand, and me being more of a risk prone person, this is sometimes more of where I struggle. Libby's more of the defensive. I'm more of the offensive, I guess you could say, in the game of life. And so I think that's why we balance each other out pretty well. But, for me, I'm all thinking about how do I take down, the other person's king, but I'm not as good on the side of defense. And but what the problem is in that is I can make some really good progressions forward, but over time, my risks of having my king put in a vulnerable place goes up and up and up because I'm not thinking about defending my king. I'm only thinking about making moves on the offensive front. And so for me, that's taking on risk, taking on leverage, that's taken me down, a path where I've left myself exposed and things are going really great until they're not. But then on the other hand, on the defensive side, I think one of Libby's struggles would be, without our balancing out of each other, is always just staying in this place where you're comfortable, but not pushing into the unknown. Libby will follow me into the unknown. I'm so grateful for her, going with me. I'm sure sometimes she feels like she's getting flail around like a rag doll. I'm trying to slow down and she's trying to meet me there. We say all the time that Libby's like the string that holds me as the kite to the ground. Without the string, I'd go crazy up there and then just end up falling to the ground, right? But without the kite, the string wouldn't get to leave the ground. And so she's what helps to anchor, and I am what helps us to soar. And so I want you to think about that, though. I'd challenge you, go watch the movie Life of a King. Think about that in your own life. Another quote from the movie is think before you move. So, in what ways in your life do you need to be a little bit more offensive in the game of life? In what ways maybe should you be a little bit more defensive in the game of life? Which do you tend to? And maybe can you even find somebody in your life, great person would be your spouse, to balance you out? Are you a little bit more offensive? Can they be a little bit more defensive? How do you take what they say into account, really consume their counsel, and apply that to your life? And they're also thinking about every single one of those moves, being intentional with each and every action, each and every day before you make it. Another awesome movie that I watched over the last 2 weeks is a movie called The Company Man. And it was really neat to watch. It was basically staged just after 2008 when the market had crashed. There was a couple gentlemen, all their lives were going really well until it wasn't. Their job was, basically it was a massive company. They were trying to downsize some divisions. They were cutting a lot of employees, cutting whole divisions. And it was just the story of a couple guys that ended up getting cut. The thing that was powerful for me, and I would challenge you to go watch this and see in what ways does your own life parallel maybe some of the challenges that they faced in their life, and maybe in what ways would your life parallel if you faced that same situation that they faced, right? But in what ways does your life parallel their lives before they faced this difficult situation, that maybe you could be proactive in solving the problem instead of being reactive like they were forced to do? See, when I watched this, I thought, okay, cool. Now I see what I don't want to happen to me. How can I be proactive? But the thing is that basically these guys lost their job. Well, the thing is that their job was the only asset that they held for most of them. And so when they lost their job, they lost everything. They lost their lifestyle. They lost their cars. They lost their house. They lost their kids going to school. They lost so much. There was so much pain, difficulty, and turmoil because literally the valve was on. They lost their job, and it was like the water valve was completely turned off. They had no way to help themselves limp along because they had maxed out their income on their lifestyle. And it's like we talk about, there's 4 types of income. We talk about this all the time here at the Wealth Legacy Journey. You have active income, active investment income, passive investment income, and passive income, right? Active income is trading your time for money. Even if you're trading your time for lots and lots and lots of money, the second that you stop working, whether you choose to stop working or you are forced to stop working, the money stops. Whereas on active investment income, you're trading your time and money for money. So you are actively participating in the investment. You have passive investment income where you're trading your money for money, which is probably one of the most exciting versions because you're able to make money without having to lift a finger. But then I would say one that people don't usually find to be a scary type of income, but I would say it's probably one of the scariest types of income to completely depend on, is truly passive income that has no investment whatsoever, such as Social Security, pensions, things of that nature, where you worked at a point and you earned this pension. They said they're going to give it to you forever, right? And so basically now they're sending you money even though you're not working. And you could say, oh, well, I spent 40 years earning it. And it's like, oh, well, that's all great and good. But if the government or the company who gave you that pension or your Social Security, again, the government, is for some reason at some point or another unable to pay their bills, most likely the first person they're going to stop paying is the person they're giving money to, who at this present moment is no longer delivering them value. That puts you in a very risky spot. Active investment and passive investment income are a little bit different than traditional passive income in the sense that you're trading your money for money or your time and money for money, right? And so these companies or the government's paying maybe bonds, or companies that are paying bonds, or companies that are paying dividends, they realize that if they stop paying, investors are going to start pulling money, and they value that money. That is value that you're giving to the company right now by investing your money. That's value you're giving to the government right now by investing your money. Now, the people who have a paycheck, they're probably, as far as active income, they're highly unlikely to lose their position unless things go really sideways as well, because they're giving their time in exchange for money right now. So be careful about where you put all your eggs and what eggs you put your basket into. So for me, I was thinking, how did I protect the king this week? What was my move on the chessboard, to really try to move forward, be, in the offense, be a little bit in the defense. And I would say last week there was a defensive move. I kind of talked to you guys about this, where we decided not to go to the tax sale last month to keep capital saved up for this moving transition that we're in. I would say that would be a defensive move on the chessboard. That one was very much led by Libby, and I listened to her counsel in that, and I think it was a great decision. That was a defensive move on the chessboard. A lot of thought went into that movement before we made that move. On the offensive this week, I actually just emailed a guy who leads Financial Peace University at my church. And we've attended his course twice, where he leads Financial Peace University. It's a Dave Ramsey course. But I love it. As you guys know, I've gotten so, a deep dived into the Dave Ramsey stuff, which has been awesome. So many different ways, just comparing and contrasting, Robert Kiyosaki versus Dave Ramsey, and then all these other authors that we've, kind of done a deep dive onto some of their content. So I emailed him and I said, hey, Dave, his name is Dave as well. I said, hey, Dave, I'd really love to participate in FPU. I'd love to shadow you or help you lead or whatever I can do. I want to be involved, because in my mind, I was thinking, there is a group of people who are going to be ripe for the offer that I want to make, and helping people go, okay, hey, now that you've got your finances organized, how do you take that next right step as far as investments? That is my ideal target audience. How can I get close to that audience? How can I get to know that audience? How can I maybe even consume some of that audience from my church that's going to FPU into my network, into my list, so I can get them involved in what we're putting together here at the Wealthy Legacy Journey? So that was an offensive move. Before I go too much further, though, as I'm talking about how to protect the king, I want to give you guys a quick reminder. Down in the description of the video, there is a link to the Wealth Health Checkup, as well as the Wealthy Legacy Journey resource page. If you've never checked those out, I would highly recommend you do so. The Wealthy Legacy Journey resource page has tons of resources that I've consumed in my own Wealthy Legacy journey that has helped me come so far. And then the Wealth Health Checkup just gives you a great right now assessment of where you're at, so you can understand, where am I at right now? And it also gives you a small guide to help you figure out, okay, now that I know where I'm at, what do I need to improve so I know where I'm going? And it helps you just to figure out what the next right step is in a broad stroke sense. And then you can figure out what's the, specific steps that I need to do to either, make my net worth be positive, increase my cash flow, whether on the cash flow, increasing income, decreasing expenses, on the net worth, increasing assets, decreasing liability, or increasing access to more capital, whether that's private money or your own cash reserves, and figuring out just what is that next thing that you need to focus on. So go to the description. Make sure you check out the Wealth Health Checkup. Make sure that you check out the Wealthy Legacy Journey resources page. And also, if you like these videos, please like and subscribe. It does help the algorithm to push us up so more people can consume some of this content. But back to the episode. There is another video that I watched this week. Actually, I watched a couple videos from this guy. His name is Myron Golden. He has some just absolutely amazing content. I'm going to start linking a bunch of his stuff on the Wealthy Legacy Journey resources page, especially the videos that I find to be the most impactful. In the description of this video, I'm going to link to one specific video that was so good. I'm going to be looking over to my screen here for a couple of notes. And I mean, I wrote so many notes on this video. It was so good. Lots of different quotes from him, Myron Golden. One thing that he said, the thing you have to do to create wealth is to focus on creating income producing assets. The reason broke people are broke is because they are their only income producing asset. The reason rich people are rich is because we accumulate income producing assets. Just like what I said with the company men, right? Their only income producing asset was themselves. And so when they got cut off from working, that was it. The water was off. Make sure you are not put in that position. right? Another thing that he said it's easier to make $1 million a month than it is to make $1 million a year. And he talked about this principle of taking out all the distractions and going all in and focusing on what is working to get that thing up and running. I find a lot of correlation. He talked about a book's 10x is easier than 2x. I can't remember who he said wrote that book, but I plan to read it because he really highlighted it and advised us to read it. But a book that I did read is Jim Collins' Good to Great, which was awesome. And he kind of talked about this same principle of how do you get that flywheel churning, and so that way you can, see significant results. Another correlation that he made to when he said this of it's easier to make $1 million a month than it is to make $1 million a year is he was talking about how, basically, well, here's an example he gave multiple times. He said, man, every time I go to stay at a hotel, the craziest thing happens. When I walk into the room, it's clean. But as we all know, that room didn't just clean itself. And he talks about how the hardest working people at a hotel are the room cleaners. But he said, and on the other side of that, which doesn't make any sense to our brains, the people who are paid the least inside of the hotel are those same room cleaners. So just because you work harder doesn't mean you're going to experience higher income. You have to work smarter, not harder. One of the great things that he talks about was the 4 levels of value, which I did write notes on. I'm going to break this down for you in just a second. But one other quote from him is he said, leveraged work is better than laborious work. And some types of leverage that I can immediately think of, because I don't want you guys to just think of debt. You can think of other people's money, other people's time, and other people's skill set. And other people's money, that could be debt, that could be joint ventures. For other people's time, you could be hiring other people, whether that is consultants, whether that is actually hiring employees, or that's joint venturing with other people to tap into their time or tapping into other people's skill sets. So again, on that list, there's joint ventures. You can hire other people, or you can tap into other people's skill sets by hiring people to coach you on what they know, to teach you what they know. So now you're going to get to know what they know. You're going to get to take the tools from their tool belt, make a copy of them, and put them into your tool belt, therefore expanding your skill sets. But diving into the 4 levels of value by Myron Golden, 2 quotes that he kind of talked about at the very beginning when he was getting into talking about these 4 levels of value. He said, more value doesn't generally make you exponentially more money. He said, instead of trying to deliver more value, you have to go to another level of value where the value that you're producing is of greater substance, right? It's worth a higher reward, a higher payment than the value that you're delivering right now. What do I mean by that? Well, I started off when I started fixing flipping houses in the house, actually doing all the work myself, pounding the nails, putting in the trim, painting the walls. And then I moved up to project manager. And then I moved up to where I was actually running my own flips and I was doing JVs. And as I went through that, progression there, I can actually see this 4 levels of value in play in my own life. And but basically, I think I started off at this place where I was the manual laborer sitting there doing all the work. And then I moved up to where I was managing the laborers. I made more money doing that than I did actually doing the labor myself. And then I moved up to the level where I was putting not only my time, but also my money, right? That active investment income. I was managing the crew and I was putting my money into it as well. And that's where I saw the greatest gains from doing fix and flips. And I've also done lots of other different type of real estate, but that's one great example. One last quote, and I'm going to get into these 4 levels of value. He said, instead of giving more value, learn to work at a higher level of value. All value is not created equally. Deliver a lot of value at a higher level in order to achieve maximum results. Again, that's Myron Golden. And so the 4 levels of value, he draws it out in this cool staircase, but I don't really have a way to do that. But in the video that I linked in the description, he did a great job of that. There's going to be some other videos I'm going to link in the Wealthy Legacy Journey resource page. So make sure you check all of those out. Level number 1 is implementation. And this is trading your muscles. This is using your muscles over time, right? And so you're doing some work over time with your muscles, right? It's like the house cleaner. It's like painting the walls. It's like installing the trim, all these different things. The only way you can increase your pay inside of this category is to work longer and to work harder. And he said, I haven't really researched this, but it does sound correct from what he said and what I know about society. He said in this category, you're looking at income wise about minimum wage to $80,000 a year, $80,000 a year being the ceiling and minimum wage being the floor. The second level of value is unification, where you're managing other people. This is where you are taking your management skills, which is a developed resource, you're multiplying it by other people's skill sets, other people's implementation, right? So now you're managing other people who are implementing and you are managing them over time. So you're able to multiply the resource of time because you're able to tap into other people's time. You see, time is the most limited resource that we have. But if you can get a group of people together, you can take the most limited resource on earth because we all have the exact same number of seconds and minutes in a day. And you can tap into that power by leveraging the skill sets of multiple people. So for me, I went from implementation where I was painting the walls, hammering in the trim. I went to unification when I became a project manager and was managing the jobs. Above unification, this is where he says the wealth line. This is kind of this wealth line. Because everything above that, you're going to struggle to ever hit wealth inside of that. But above that place is where you start tapping into real wealth. By the way, for unification, the average salary on the floor, you're looking at about $40,000 a year if you're managing, he said, like a Taco Bell, $250,000 a year if you're a manager, like a middle-level manager at a Lockheed Martin. The next step in this 4 levels of value is communication. And this would be on the low end, like a car salesman. On the high end, you could be like a songwriter. You could be, any sort of like a singer, a movie star, anything like that. And then most of your, sales guys are going to land somewhere in the middle between the income of $100,000 a year and hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Right. And I would argue that even on some of, if you're looking at some of the singers and the artists, like one person that he specifically mentioned was like Taylor Swift. But I think she's built an incredible brand. I'm not, a huge Taylor Swift music fan myself because we all like her different genres of music, and hers just doesn't do it for me, but that's okay because I think what she's accomplished as a businesswoman is incredible. As far as the following that she's built, people are dedicated to her. They follow her all the way. She now writes and from what I understand, she writes her own music and produces her own music, owns the rights to her own music. Kevin Hart has done something similar in building up, his brand, which I think is absolutely incredible. But I would say that takes also that the fourth level is imagination, which I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But I think they use some communication and imagination, implementation, all of that together in order to build these amazing brands. But this and communication is where you are using your mouth, which is a highly developed resource. It takes some work and energy and effort to be able to develop this resource. They use your mouth over time to make money. And it's interesting. He said talking isn't harder than the previous levels, but it provides more value than the previous levels do. If you can talk and help people to believe something that you believe, you can persuade somebody to think the way that you think and get them to believe a message, to believe an idea. He said you don't get paid based on the level of difficulty of the work you do. You get paid based on the level of value of the work that you're delivering on. And when you communicate, you can create messages that move the masses. You can have conversations that create cash flow. So one thing I want you guys to think about, and this is kind of an example he gave, but think about the cash that you might carry around. What backs the value of the currency inside of most any country of these fiat currencies? What backs the value? It isn't gold. It isn't, some guarantee from the government. It is our belief in the value of that money. Because that $1 bill has a 1 printed on it, we believe that it's worth $1. And I might go to the dollar store and I believe that that thing is worth $1. So I'm willing to give them this little piece of paper that has a 1 on it in exchange for an item. And that person, that teller, is willing to receive this piece of paper that has a 1 on it in order for giving me this item because they believe that the thing was worth a dollar because that's what it said on the price tag. And they believe that this piece of paper with a 1 on it's worth $1 because they can see it's a United States dollar bill. But also, I want you to think about your paycheck. Because when you receive, let's say you're getting paid $20 an hour, then what you're saying is you believe that 1 hour of your time, 60 minutes of your precious life, the most limited resource we as human beings have, is worth $20. Is worth a piece of paper with a 20 on it. Maybe that is what you think your time is worth, or maybe you think it's worth more. Let's say you get paid $100,000 a year. You're saying that 365 days of your life, maybe not all those are working, so maybe you're more like 250, 300 days a year, whatever it might be. Let's say 300 days a year-ish of your life is worth about $100,000, which I guess quick math would mean that 3 days is worth $1,000. And so one day would be worth like $333. So you're saying that one day of your life is worth $333. You know who gets to decide what a day of your life, what an hour of your life, what a minute of your life is worth? You do. Protect the king. Make sure you're moving up in value. Make sure that you are setting healthy floors and healthy ceilings, which would honestly probably be no ceilings on your income, and healthy floors on your income to say, I know I'm worth at least this, if not more. I'm going to continue to increase my skill sets, increase the value, the value of the value that I can deliver. I'm going to keep going up so I can keep moving up that floor. The last tier here, I've already gone over my time a little bit. The last tier here is imagination. He said that the income bracket for this is $1 million into the trillions, because there are now trillionaires. This is where you take your mind, which is a developed resource, you multiply that by the money that you have, which is almost an unlimited resource at this point because we print it like crazy. You use that over time to create a return. The only limitations that you really have are the ones that you carry with you in your mind that cause you to put on the brakes when you should step on the gas. Another quote by Myron Golden. The most powerful combo is when you can combine your high-level communication with high-level imagination. And to break down the resources again that we've gone through, that, I would say from most limited to the most abundant, most limited being time. You literally cannot create more time. The next one being muscle. You're only going to have the muscles that your body can be able to perform at a certain level for so long. I hear so many people say like, oh man, what it would be like to be back into my 20s or my 30s, because now I'm in my 40s or my 50s and my 60s and I can't do what I used to be able to do back then. Why is that? Because muscles deteriorate over time. They are they are very limited resource. Not as limited as time, but they are a limited resource. The next one being communication. You can develop it, but it's difficult. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say that it's simple to develop communication, but you need to learn how to communicate. The next one being management skills, and then other people, because the amount of people in this world is fairly abundant. So I would say it's a fairly abundant resource. And then the final one is money, because I would say money is probably one of the most abundant resources. We print it like crazy. You just got to figure out, how can I climb that value ladder to deliver higher value of value, so I can then create wealth? How do I move from implementation to unification? How do I move from unification to communication? How do I move from communication to imagination? I often hear all the time that, time goes too fast, or I don't have enough time, or time goes faster than it used to. Listen, no one can create more time, but you can receive time equal to your time through the assets that you own. Think about this. People pay you rent because you own this asset, you let them borrow it, and they pay you money in return. How did they get that money? They got that money by going and working a job. They got paid, and then they give that money to you. Because you see, and Myron Golden talked about this, for most people, payday isn't really payday. Payday is transfer day, because money goes to them from one person, to another. Let's go look at this example. Money goes from the rich boss, the wealthy boss who's got an income producing business, goes to your bank account, and then it goes from your bank account to the mortgage company for your car, for your house, or it goes to the grocery store, and it goes to the grocer who owns the grocery store, and it goes to all these other things. All these other people who have created businesses to churn money. It just is a transfer. And you're going, okay, well, I make $333 a day. My car payment's $333. So maybe you're saying, hey, I'm going to give you one whole day of my time every single week. This concept we talked about before. I'm going to give you one day of my time to let me borrow this car until finally we agree that it's paid off. It's a crazy way to live. So make sure you guys are thinking before you move. make sure that you're protecting the king. Make sure that you are moving from active and passive income into active investment income, passive investment income, where you're trading not only your time for money, but you're trading your time and money for money, and then getting all the way to the ultimate freedom of passive investment income, where you have enough money where you can just trade your money for money, and then you can do whatever you feel the Lord is calling you to do in your life. Let's pray right quick. Lord, I pray that you give us just clarity and focus on what we can do in our lives to move through the levels of value. How do we move from implementation to unification to communication to imagination? How do we free up the time in our lives to really dig into and do what we feel you have called us to do in our lives? How can we move from simply trading our time for money and make wise money decisions that would honor and glorify you, so that we can move into trading our time and money for money, which is active investment income, and trading our money for money and being able to grow wealth for ourselves, for our families, for our ability to be able to give, to be able to have freedom to give our time, our most valuable resource that we are given, to be able to give our time in whatever way you call us to spend it. Would you help us, Lord? Give us wisdom and clarity on that matter. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Let's say our identity mantra right quick. I explore the unknown. I conquer new frontiers. My journey is powerful, and my wake is a wealthy legacy. And remember, guys, the way we define wealthy here at the Wealthy Legacy Journey is the ability to cover your monthly expenses without having to lift a finger. The way we define legacy is leaving a long-lasting impact on others who come after you as they receive the fruit of your labor, whether that fruit be good or bad. We're all going to leave fruit, but the way that you can leave good fruit is you plant good seeds, cultivate good trees, and ultimately bear good fruit. As a reminder, guys, I really would appreciate if you'd like the video, subscribe. It helps the algorithm get this video to more people so we can grow the channel, get this message to more people. Don't forget, in the description of both Spotify, YouTube, there is going to be a link to the Wealthy Legacy Journey resource page, which has some awesome stuff, including a couple videos from Myron Golden that just absolutely blew my mind. I think they're going to blow your mind too. And there is a link to the Wealth Health Checkup, which if you have not done that yet, it is an absolute game changer to get you on the right path. I would highly recommend that you go do that. With all that said, guys, this has been another episode dedicated to you and your own wealthy legacy journey. Go out there and simply take the next right step today. I cannot wait to hear your success story very soon. It was great hanging out with you, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Bye, everybody.